Hi guys, welcome back. Today up here at HHP, got a new project that I'm going to be working on today. Multiple projects and some orders and stuff. So today, I'm working on a new character for myself. Just something a little bit more fun to add another flavor outside. So to give you some background, there's a character that I created and played for a long time named Stain. And that character still exists at the haunt. It was handed down from me to CJ, and then to Christian, and then now finally to Jacob Phelps, who plays it now. Christian moved on and is playing that character's older brother portrait. And in the overarching story and lore of our haunt, their role is expanding. So I am adding a character of my own coming back into it. That is another version, another family member of this group. And he's going to be a little bit different with the same flavors thrown in so that he kind of matches the group. And I'm going to be making a weapon for this character today. So I want him to be kind of reminiscent of an executioner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this huge, it's kind of an axe, kind of a cleaver kind of thing, oversized for sure, and fantastic. So when it's done, it should be awesome. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that, kind of take you along in the process today. So let's start. All right, so I've got two things of Flex Seal black. Now, I would have preferred if this was Flex Seal gray, but they only had black or white at the store I was at, so I had to go with that. I've got 4 1/2-inch T's and 2 1/2-inch 90 elbows. Make sure you check that these are not the ones with threads, that they're just the slip-in ones. I got one 10-foot long piece of 1/2-inch PVC and 2 pieces of this 1.5-inch project foam. They just have these panels, so I went with this. You could go with something kind of thicker. It might be kind of better for this project, but this is what I went with because it was available, and I'm going to be cutting it down drastically anyway. So anyway, let's start. Okay, so the first thing I did was cut this down. I've got one piece at 6 foot because I'm like 5'8", and I want this to be slightly taller than me, so it's just this big weapon. And then I've got this extra piece at 48 inches, which I'm going to be cutting up for like the handle on this. So, and I'll show you that as we go. So I'm gonna have to do some cutting over there too, but we'll get that all in. So the next thing I'm going to do, I need to put the handle in, so that's going to be first. Okay, so off of my 6-foot piece, I cut 2 feet, and I cut 6 inches off of that 2 feet. So this is going to be the bottom of the handle. So what I'm going to do is start putting in these elbows and cutting this up as I go. I'm going to cut this 2-foot piece into 12 inches because I want the handle to be kind of double. So I'll have 2 12-inch pieces, and then the 6-inch pieces because I want kind of like a tang coming off the end after the handle. I'm pretty sure it's called the tang or whatever. I want a decorative piece coming off the bottom of the handle, and I'll probably put like a skull or some shit on there once I'm done, but it'll look cool. I'm not using any PVC glue because I'm going to be covering this in wood glue, which is actually an expanding foam, so everything's going to get glued together anyway when I do the texturing. So what I'm going to do now is take my long piece, which should be about, at this point, 3.5 feet, and I'm going to put a T on there and then slide in my 2-foot piece, cut that in half, and put in a few more T's, and basically get the long shaft for the handle constructed. All right, so I put in the T's, make sure they're all going the right way, and I put in this small piece on the end. Now I'm going to cut 3 pieces that are 2 inches long. Each of these goes in about 1 inch, So 2 inches will give me enough so I can put another T on top, connect all of them. I'm going to cut 3 pieces to go in here. All right, so I've got the handle constructed. Here I put the 2-inch pieces inside, connect to the elbows, going straight across, 2 12-inch pieces here. And you can see my cool little handle there with the little tang thing that comes off. And like I said, I'll put some kind of a stopper on this or something like that. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put a little bit of a curve in this. So it already has one, but I want it to be a little bit more, just a little bit more of a curve. So I'm going to get the heat gun and put some heat on the back side of that and just get this to kind of bend just a little bit more. So let's do that. All right, so I put a little bit of a bend in this. I want it to look like the blade has some weight. So like it's almost bending the top back. So now I'm going to start to get into that blade. So I'm going to line this up on here and essentially just draw my blade shape out. Then I'm going to cut a channel to get this inside of the foam so that it's actually in the middle of that foam. So let's do that. All right, some measuring and stuff like that. And I've got my blade traced out. This little squiggle line here is where the top of this is going to sit. So I'll carve that out, lay the handle in, and then like glue it back. So I'm gonna grab my hot knife and I'm gonna carve this blade out. All right, so right here I've cut out my blade. Right now, the rough shape. Then I took a wire brush and the channel that I carved or traced for pipe. I'm just gonna lay that in there, make sure everything's lined up. I'm gonna get some Gorilla Glue right here. Now, Gorilla Glue, like it says, it bonds with virtually everything. That's because this is actually an expanding foam. It's a rigid expanding foam. So I'm gonna fill this with that glue and basically cover over top of this. And this is gonna be layer 1 of adhesive that holds this in, but it's gonna glue these two together. It's going to essentially cover this with a hard coat of foam. Then I'm going to be putting a few pieces over top that are decoration, but will also serve as the strength here where all the essentially the pressure from the blade and moving it around is going to go. So I'm going to cover that in glue, and then I'm going to go eat. When I come back, the glue should be cured and I can move forward on this. So let's do that. All right, I'm back from eating, and the glue has, as I told you, this is an expanding foam, as it looks like. There was incredibly less glue than this in there. I already kind of swung it around. It holds it very well. This is also the first layer of things that are going to hold the handle in. So I did take a hot knife and just cut it kind of flat against this because there's going to be some stuff going over top of this. So what I'm going to do next is take my other piece of foam and line it up with these corners, and I'm going to trace out pretty much I want like what looks like a metal plate that would hold this and kind of pinch it with like bolts. So I'm going to cut out a square, and I'll cut it out twice. I'll trace this edge underneath so it actually fits, and I'll put that on both sides, so it's got this kind of big metal plate, and then I'll add bolts on top of that. Once I get those on, I'm going to be covering this in, well, I'll put the blade on it and then I'll cover it in Flex Seal. So let's trace that out. All right, so I cut these two little arched kind of pieces, one on each side over here, and put Gorilla Glue on the whole back side of those, spray it with water, then I clamped it down. I'm going to let that activate and glue down. I also did the blade edge, just took my hot knife at an angle and cut it on both sides. Then I took my blade, heated it up, and just came through and gave it all this kind of aging so that the blade of the axe doesn't look perfect. Once the Gorilla Glue dries, I'm going to take some acetone. I'm just going to kind of flick it on this to give it some pitting. So again, it doesn't look perfect. You can also do that with a heat gun. If you use water, spray it on there, and then come back and heat it while the drops are still wet, it'll give you some variation. I might do it that way because I have that stuff right here, but I want to let the glue dry, so it'll be an hour or so before that's ready to move around and everything. So let that dry for a while, and then we'll come back to this. I'm going to go work on something else. All right, guys, I've got everything glued together now. The glue's all cured. What I did, you can see the texture's kind of different. I just took a spray bottle of water, make sure it's on mist, not laser beam, and a heat gun, and you just kind of mist water over this, and then use your heat gun and heat it up. Now, the water is super important because where the drops are like, if you see here, it's not so melted as like all these areas. It's because there was a bunch of water here that kind of protected the foam for a moment, and that's what gives you this kind of pitted look. I want it to look like old kind of pitted iron, very rough, very used and abused. What I'm going to do next is I've got these resin bolt ends. I'm not expecting you to have these. If you want to purchase these, you can order them on our website, Haunted Hills Productions. You could also use like dowel heads. They won't look like these, but they'll look more like this. This isn't a dowel head, but this is the end of a bolt, so it's a rivet. It's a little bit kind of different, but you could use dowel heads if you just want to purchase them at a store. Just get the right size and then glue them on. So this is going to make it look like this is all kind of bolted together, plus give it some cool kind of decoration on that side. I'm going to glue these down. My hot glue gun's heating up right now. I'm just going to hot glue them on because, like I said, I'm going to be covering this in Flex Seal. So that Flex Seal, the hot glue will hold it. I have to be careful how much I use because the hot glue will kind of melt into this. But the Flex Seal is really going to seal everything in and just get everything held together. So that's next. All right, so I've got the bolts glued on. They're all dry and everything, good to go. I did do a little bit more heat and bend to this handle. I want to get this good arc kind of look. So now I have that, so that's nice. You can see it kind of arcs all the way around now, so that's cool. So I'm ready to start with the paint on this. So what I want to do is I want to stand it up, kind of prop it up on something, get it secure, because I'm going to be doing Gorilla Glue on the handle to give it kind of a wood grain kind of texture, and then I'm going to be doing Flex Seal on the top. I want to paint everything at once just so there's going to be a lot of dry time, and I want everything to dry at the same time, just to speed up this process. So I'm going to do as much as I can with it standing up, and then let that stuff cure and come back to it. So let's do it. All right, so I've got the glue on the handle. You can see it's starting to kick. Still going to be pretty sticky. Yeah, not ready to touch yet, but you can see how it's covering up all the joints, starting to look more like a wooden handle. I might put a little bit more on here. I've got more. I'm going to put like some burlap and some rope and things like that to make kind of a grip to hide this, but and also paint it obviously so it looks more like wood. But up here I've got the blade covered with one coat of Flex Seal. You can see some pink in there still. I don't like that because I want the Flex Seal to give me some extra grab to hold the handle in pretty much, especially on this side where all that's holding that handle in is the glue, holding that piece onto here and the glue that I put inside. So I'm still gonna have to do some more to this because like I didn't hit any of that. So once this kind of cures and is dry to the touch, which I didn't even read how long it takes, but let's see if I can see it. Whew, I don't know, a while. 24 to 48 hours between coats, so it's gonna be a while. We'll just start kind of putting the coats on this and get it to where I want it to be, and then we'll go to paint. So it could be a couple days before I am back to this, but I at least want it to get dry so I can move it out of the workspace. So I'm sure it won't take that long to dry, but yeah. So I'm gonna go do some sculpting and we will come back to this. All right guys, it's been a few days and my giant axe has dried. Let me show you some stuff. So everything on it now is dry. All of this is dry to the touch. Oh, that kind of hurt. But all this is dry to the touch and a good coat of that Flex Seal on there. Also got this backside painted up yesterday. All this took like 2 days to dry. I don't know if that's just because of like the weather, but this I painted last night and it's already dry to the touch. When I painted this, maybe it was just like more of it. So it was still kind of tacky to the touch the next day, but about 2 days and it was dry. So now this is dry as well. All this is dry. Everything's dry. Nothing's coming off on my fingers. And I can feel that's a much nicer bond with all that stuff on there. So what I'm going to do next is start the painting process. So first I'm going to paint the handle. Then that can dry while I'm applying some stuff to this, because this process is going to be like a 2-day process, because I'll paint the one side, then I'll have to flip it over and paint the other side. But let me show you what I'm going to do here. So the first thing I'm going to do, because this is PVC and I'm concerned about stuff not adhering to it, is I'm going to treat it with a coat of spray adhesive. This is kind of a trick. If you have anything that is not normally adhesive or would not normally take paint, spray it with spray adhesive, let that dry, and then your paints and stuff will adhere to the spray adhesive that's on top. So I'm going to spray this whole thing, let it dry, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to paint it. So for the head here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use some Brutal Rust. When you order this, this comes with the rust paint, which has iron in it, iron shavings, which is what's rusting, and then what it's proprietary to the company is actually the activator. It's some sort of acid that makes the iron in the paint rust very quickly, creating hundreds of years worth of rust in just a few hours. So you can make your own if you want by getting iron powder. You can order it by the pound on Amazon, and you just mix that in with paint. And then for an activator, you can use a lot of things. Any kind of ammonia would do it. You could also use alcohol and salt, or water and salt on pure iron will create that rust. I actually did some tests of it on here, but I don't remember where. But I made my own a while back. It might be in here somewhere. It might have washed off. I don't remember exactly where I did it, but it worked and it was cool. But anyway, we're gonna use the real stuff. I let the professionals do it. So I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna apply it, then I'm gonna spray it, and it'll have a real rust look and texture about it. So that'd be really cool while the spray adhesive dries on this. And you can see I used about half of this jar. This is their sample size, and I covered 3 sides of the axe. So essentially all I have is the other side of this, but I did get the whole edge around it. So I'll just get essentially this and this part on the other side. Once this activates and dries, you can kind of see here on the lid the activated pieces, or small parts of the activated pieces. So what's cool about this also is, since it's real iron, it's actually live, so it will continue to rust and change colors as it ages. So that's kind of cool. You can also treat it using the activator. You could spray it all. I sprayed all this at the same time, so it's all going to rust. You can come back. I can actually come back and put like extra dripping off of these, so it's got extra spots where it's got like extra rust, and it'll all be real. So you can kind of detail this how you want using the activator. I'm also pretty positive you can buy just the activator from their website, so that's kind of cool. This is dry now, so I'm going to come back through and I'm going to paint this. So I want this to look like wood, so I'm going to be using wood stain. Getting wood color. My favorite color to use is Jacobian. I'm going to paint it on, wipe it off, and then it should be done. I'm not worried too much about like these words and stuff, because this is all going to get covered up with burlap and things, so it'll be all covered anyway. So let's do it. All right, so now this is all painted. Didn't give me as much of a wood look as I would have liked, but there's some other stuff I could do. It did give me kind of a cool kind of bone look, so I'm cool with that too. I think once I put the burlap and everything on here and this is all rust, it'll look really cool. I mean, I'll take a bone axe. I think that's fucking sick. So, but this will dry overnight. This is going to keep reacting and dry overnight too. Then I'll flip this over, rust the other side. Then I'm just on to doing the burlap and details in blood, and this is ready to be done. So yeah. All right guys, so the next day, and the axe looks really cool, but downside, the paint is not adhering due to the Flex Seal that's underneath it. So this stuff's coming right off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wipe this all off, and then I'm gonna come back, treat it with a coat of clear coat, and then I'm gonna paint this with some spray paints. Just get some rust colored spray paints and show you how to do that instead.